Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Voting webinar. Today we have Scolmore Group with us. Jay Green, beside me, will be in charge of this session. Guys, please feel free to ask questions and make comments in the chat box. And yeah, I think we can start. Jake, welcome. Over to you,
Thank you very
please.
much. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate your time. And I know that there's many of you watching it in a college class. So this session today is more of a question and answers session, whereby it's down to you how short we make the webinar. So if you do have some questions, it can be on anything to do with the electrical industry. Probably not so much about football. My team's not doing so well at the minute, so we'll skip them questions. And we'll just keep to the electrical for today. So it could be on anything. It can be on wiring systems. It can be do with JIB, pay structure, etc. It could be on AM2. If you've got any questions or any worries about that, we can start to take some questions. So, as I've mentioned, it's vitally important that if you do have any questions, that you get them in the chat so that we can actually see what it is that you want to know. So wait for the first one to come in. I know that there was some questions around about the AM2 and the AM2S. What's the difference? And more so, what should we be doing to practice and to understand what the requirements are? Now, with the setup for the AM2, there's what is known as a day where you can go in or the day beforehand to actually understand what it is, the requirements. So it's almost like a practice day where they don't actually let you into the bays, but what they will do is they will give you guidance around the types of things that you're likely to see when you're doing your AM2. Now, when I did my AM2, I took full advantage. There was no way that I was failing that exam or having to go back for certain sections. So I took full advantage and used that practice day. It was a massive help, purely for the fact that actually what I was expecting to compare to what actually was there in principle, it wasn't on the same level. So if you do have the opportunity when you go to the AM2 centre to have the practice day, now it may seem like it's a bit of a chore and it's like, oh God, I just want to get this over and done with. But by doing that, it'll allow you to really focus on exactly what they're looking for. They'll give you guidance around the systems that they're looking for, the testing, the inspecting, the fault finding, the health and safety side of things. So it really is important that you do take full advantage of that as well. So we can start to see some of the questions coming in. So I'm just going to look at the screen over here. So someone's asked me here, how did you end up as a manufacturer, considering you started as an electrician? Is this a common route? I ended up here by sheer luck. No, I'm just joking. I think I started as an electrician. I did get very fortunate that I knew a couple of people that were at the NIC. So I had a contracting business, or I worked for a contractor at first, did all my time there, and I was very fortunate that they put me through all of my exams, and I had the scope of works to be able to complete my MVQ with them. I got picked up and somebody asked me and said, would you mind sort of moving away from that company and coming to work for us, looking after some maintenance of some large restaurants across the UK. Now, it was one of those ones where if you don't take a risk, you'll never know. So I thought, do you know what? It sounds like a brilliant opportunity. That didn't work out and it didn't materialize into anything special. I then moved from there to a facilities management company where I was looking after some retail shops across the country again, and making sure that they are maintained electrically and all of the other bits that we see in most retail shops, flooring, sinks and bits like that. A little bit out of my scope, but it was one of those ones that you learn on the job and you always have the support of everybody around you. Now, how did I end up in manufacturing? I moved to the NIC, had a wonderful time there, around about 4 years, where we was out on the road delivering tech talks and shows to people. And then Scolmore asked me if I would like to do something similar for them. So in terms of actually how did I get into it, I was approached and asked, actually, we like what you're about and what you're doing. Is it something that you'd be interested in coming to work with us? Now, it is a little bit of a sidestep away from wiring regulations and looking more about manufacturing. However, the skills that I built up when I was at the NIC has allowed me to move into this position of manufacturing and delivering technical messages via using our products and helping the development team look at new products in line with the wiring regulations. So it's not really a common route. It's more of a, let's see where we can go with it, and if it fits for them and it fits for myself, then we can see what happens. But in terms of routes, I think I'm a great example of what can be achieved within the electrical industry. And it's not just a case of just being an electrician, doing your time at college, going out on the tools, and then constantly working out on site. There's so much more to this industry that you probably haven't recognised as of yet, being an apprentice, because you've not been opened up to that world. However, you know, if something like this, what I'm doing, does interest you, then by all means, follow what you're trying to do. Start off by delivering some talks, or, you know, start by doing the induction for your company that you're working for the employees that are trying to join the company. That's a great start and a great way to get into it. Therefore, then you can start applying for more technical roles. Some companies like to do tech talks, or toolbox talks, as they were known as when I was delivering them for a company that I work for. Start engaging and start doing that, and then that's where you'll start to make noises within the industry, and then get picked up. And someone like Scolmore may approach you and say, we like what you're doing. Would you like to come and take a look as well? So, long way about it, but yes. Are there any AM2 do's and don'ts we should be aware of, or any top tips? The first one, and the most important one, the one that I see time and time again, and actually one of the lads that I went to college with on the apprenticeship, he gave the key back to the person that was examining when he was doing safe isolation. It's vitally important that I stress to you, do not give that key back. Doesn't matter how many times they ask you, even if it goes to 10 times and they say, no, seriously, give me the key back now. Just stand your ground and you say, look, I'm willing to give you the key, but, you know, in a real life situation, just to let you know that I would never give my key up, purely so that you don't fail the safe isolation part. That is one of the key parts that people that fail on. So that's a don't, if you like. The do's are really focus on testing. That bit does take some time, and there are some tricky faults that sit within the testing part. So if you're not doing much testing at the moment, maybe it might be wise that you speak to your employer and see whether you can set up a test rig, and they can put some faults on there so that you really understand what it is that you're looking for. Because if you don't understand the fundamental principles of what you're trying to achieve with that fault, then you're onto a loser already. So I think that's a definite do for me, where you need to practice your testing, because I know what it's like when you're out there on site. You don't always get involved in that part. You're normally the person that's putting in the cables and making the second fix, and then someone will come around and do the testing afterwards. So if you're not doing too much testing, that is a definite that you need to get your head around, especially when it comes to fault finding. Anything else that I would think about? Maybe to do with, if you're certainly doing the AM2S, keep up to date with your conduit sets and bends, etc. I've been out of that type of work when we look at wiring systems, you know, conduit tray, etc. That it take me forever to get back into it now. So it's one of those skills. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. So even if it means that you have to get some offcuts from work just to take home and just practice and really focus on exactly what you're doing, I think the repetition part of the AM2 is the key to success as well. See what else we've got coming on here. We've got, is there any good sites to support the AM2? Well, now you can go on to Net and the Net's in conjunction with World Skills. But if you go onto the Net website, so that's NET, I think it's double T, might even be double T, and then put in AM2, there is some information on there. They like to keep it a top secret. They like to have it as a challenge for all the people that are trying to achieve that for their MVQ. So it always seems like a myth and nobody wants to talk about it. I like the idea that it's a challenge and you need to be at the top of your game to achieve that. But in terms of information, you can go onto YouTube. There's lots of people talking about the AM2, whether it be AM2S as well. So you can go on and do that as well. What training could I do after my apprenticeship? That's a great question. I think what you can start to look at is looking at a niche market more so. Now, you probably want to understand what the industry is doing. And the way that you do that is you pick up magazines and focus on what technical articles are being written within the magazines, or whether it's a forum that you're a member of, or you're looking at maybe TikTok or YouTube or anything like that. Focus on what they're looking at, because what they tend to do is they focus on things that are emerging within the industry to try and get ahead of the curve. That's probably the best way to describe it. So if you are looking at, I think battery storage is a perfect example at the moment. Great course to get into. So after your apprenticeship, you start looking at getting into battery storage. Now, it might not be something that your company actually does at the moment, but if you put a good enough a case towards them and say, look, I've done some research and all these people are talking about battery storage and how it's emerging and how it's coming on. Do you think it's wise that we start to look at it? I think your business that you're working for will certainly appreciate that. You can start to look at EV, so electric vehicle charging, solar panels. Solar panels are going to start making their way back into the industry as more of a niche market again, because of the battery storage and the EV charging all going in hand. Your 2391. Now that's a vitally important qualification when it comes to maybe setting yourself up for the future. So if you do have aspirations of owning your own business and looking at testing and joining a competent person scheme, whether it's NAPIT or whether it's NIC, EIC, you're going to need your 2391 for those types of competent person schemes. So that's a great one to do. Now, what I wish I'd done when I left college was continue to learn. Now, it seems crazy because all you're doing when you're at college is you want to get out there and you want to be an electrician. You want to earn electrician's money. But the thing is, with the knowledge that you come out of college with, if you can then take that and elevate it to the next qualification, whether that's HNC or HND, etc., or continue to learn about the design of systems, or whether it's to do with pat testing or any qualification, keep learning straight away as soon as you come out. What I did was I thought, great, I'm an electrician now. That was it. But little did I know that the industry keeps changing and changing. Therefore, I'm going to keep needing to learn all the time. So that's another great piece of advice that I would give you, is to continue to learn throughout your time, whether it's after your apprenticeship or when you get to my sort of age as well. Done that one. What happens if, I'm just going to squint over here. What happens if an electrical firm can't keep an apprentice on halfway through the apprenticeship? Is there any help out there, or do you recommend anybody an apprentice could talk to? Apprentice one-to-one. He's someone that I know. A chap's called Mark Allison. Great guy. He's doing fantastic things within the industry. He's basically making sure that most apprentices that have this type of situation, or whether they've just come out their time and they're looking for work, he will help you look for a job. I think that's a fantastic thing for Mark to be doing. So that is definitely a route that you can go down if you get cut off halfway through. Or you could speak to your college. They may say, look, we can't help you with the MVQ side because we don't have anywhere to place you at the moment. Or they may say, well, we've got a couple of good contacts that may potentially be looking to take someone on. But apprentice one-to-one, it would be my angle and where I would look to go to as well. What's involved in my site diary for the MVQ? What advice would you give? The MVQ was the bane of my life when I did it. It was one of those ones that just kept creeping up on you. Well, you need to do this, or you need to do this. Start now. If you're even at level 2, just start taking photos of jobs that you're going to. Make sure that you're in the picture. You're doing safe working practices. That's always a good one. That's always going to be needed throughout the whole of your site diary. When you start to look at how you're writing up your jobs, they're going to say to you, well, what safety methods did you put in place? So if you can start to take that into consideration when you're out on site. Just say, can I just take a quick photo of this work, whether it's health and safety, or whether it's containment, or whether it's different types of wiring that you don't normally do. Always take the photos, and then you can refer back to them and start to add on and include that throughout your portfolio. The other piece of advice that I would give is that actually, when you start your MVQ or you get nearer to the time of starting it, just get it done. It's one of those things that just keeps lingering on and lingering on. If the quicker you get it done, the quicker you can get out of there in terms of college courses and your AM2 as well, and having that qualification behind you. That would be my advice. I'm one of these people that's like, be all right, it'll come back. Someone else will do it. That was when I was an apprentice, mind. But I always had that attitude that, nah, don't worry about it. We'll get it done another day. Get it done, get it gone is my attitude towards it now. How can I upskill? I probably need a little bit more information on that one, Neil, in terms of what you're trying to upskill to. Like I said, if you're referring back to the question about how did I come into manufacturing and what skills did I have to do, well, certainly presentation skills. I absolutely hated delivering information to people. It was one of those things that I was like, no, I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want to be the person in the room that everyone's looking at. So I always used to sit back. I always had an opinion, but I'd always sit back. So if you're looking at upskilling for the types of things that I'm up to at the moment, it's more about on the job experience. So I spent nearly 18 months, the best part of 18 months, where I was just watching and observing how people were presenting. It got a little tedious, I must admit, but it's set me up now, well and truly. Where would an electrical apprentice begin in terms of finding the most interesting electrical work? For example, if an apprentice wants to work on oil rigs or rail, how can they move into this as they're currently in domestic work? Again, great question. It's something that I always wanted to look at, especially with the oil rigs working offshore. Start by looking on Google and finding some of the bigger companies. You will probably find that they need certain requirements to be able to get you out there. So the first port of call is go on Google, oil rigs. How do I work on an oil rig? Or if you're closer to the seaside, a lot of the towns around there, I know Hull, Aberdeen, places like that, there's lots of work around those areas where they have offshore work as well. So I did look at it. I looked at the wind farms as well, working on them offshore, because I predominantly did a lot of domestic work as well. Rail is quite a niche market again. Now, I've mentioned Mark Allison. There's a guy called Neil Bridgman. He has his own company, and he's done a podcast on how to get into rail. So that's another great podcast on YouTube that you could go and have a little look at if that's something that you wanted to get into. There's certain qualifications that you need and certain health and safety processes that you need to understand before you start working in those areas. So again, simple Google search, oil rigs. How do I start to work on oil rigs? Find some of the big companies, look at BP, Shell, etc. Those types of people will be able to help you. And then when it comes to rail, speak to Network Rail, for example. Have a look on their website. They also have a careers part. You can go in there and see if they're taking on anybody for that side of things. And you can also probably get to see some of the partnerships that they're working with if there's any companies that are local to you as well. What was the greatest challenge you faced as an apprentice? Greatest challenge? I would say getting up in the mornings when you're working away or you're working over long distance. That was always a challenge. But in terms of academically, I think it was the math side of things. The math side of things, again, as I've mentioned, I was one of these people that I'll just pick it up as I go. You really do need to focus on that. Now, do I use that every day now? No, probably not. But in order to pass your exams and to get your qualification, it's something that you desperately need to work at. So if you're not actually that brilliant at it, take some more papers home, understand some more questions. The lecturers are there to help you, and they want to see you do well. They don't want to see you struggle. If there's something that they can do and help you, maybe an extra lesson, I can see probably most of the lecturers in the classroom now screwing at their face, saying, "I'm not doing extra work," but that they should be there to speak to you as well. There's someone just replying to a couple of questions there. Who is the true trade royalty, electricians or plumbers? We were seen probably 7 to 8 years ago, electricians, elite, absolute elite, above everybody. Didn't get dirty. They always walked around with nice, clean tools and all that type of stuff. In terms of who's the top royalty in the trade, I think we still are there. Electricians, we've got them. We have to certainly know the most in terms of new emerging technologies, different things that manufacturers like ourselves bring out, new consumer units, different ways of wiring lights, different ways of wiring incoming services. So I think we are the elite. I'm gonna put it out there, and someone can clip this if they want, and they can show all the plumbers in the college, and we'll tell them that we are the elite. And that's the only reason that you guys wanted to be an electrician, is because you want to be elite. Jake, I find that ESP and Scolmore CPD videos are very useful. Thank you very much. And the SGTV videos, students could get involved in them. Okay, so if there's someone that wants to show some talent off on screen, and they want to get up behind the camera, and they want to just talk about what they're up to or life as an apprentice. I think we've already done one with some apprentices, but SGTV, if you want to reach out to us by responding to some of the feedback forms or getting in contact with your lecturer, and then let them get in contact with me, we can definitely get in there and do something. No doubt about it. It'd be interesting to see what we can produce as well. Someone's replying back to the royalty question. If you need to ask, you're in the wrong trade. 100%. Could we have a link for the Rail podcast, please? I could probably dig one out and have a look for you. Electrical with bright sparks. The pass rate for first-time AM2 is quite low. What can I do to increase my chances of passing the first time? So this was something that we spoke about right at the beginning of the webinar. So if you've just joined now, and for some of the people that are listening, apologies that we're just going to revisit this. It's all about that practice day. That really does set you up. And if you can get your practice day a week or so before you actually do the AM2, even better, because it gives you that little bit of time to understand what's going on. That's the way I would look at it. Some people like to do the practice day, then jump straight into it. I would suggest that if you're not confident and you're a little bit unsure, you may want to do the practice day a week early and say, right, okay, I'll see what they're trying to do and see how the way this is going to operate. Let me spend some time over the next week and have a conversation again with your boss, or whether you're at college, just say to your lecturers, look, can you set something up where that's going to challenge me? Say, look, let's do some back-to-back bends, or let's do some bubble sets, or if we're doing the AM2S, that is, then yeah, that's definitely the thing that I would do. Testing, again, as I've mentioned, do that, look at that, get your guidance notes out, on-site guide, etc., your health and safety, keep on top of everything as well, because like we say, things do change, and I know the AM2 is actually one of those ones that doesn't change too much. We've seen some changes recently with the AM2S, AM2E, etc. But it's more about repetition. The more and more you do something, the easier and easier it becomes. So if you, like I said, if you're not good at testing, make sure you revisit testing. Just keep doing it. Take the test to home. Take the board that you're working on home. Obviously, be careful and work safely. But yeah, that's my advice for you there. Oh, good old Madison putting in the links for us there. Make sure you subscribe. She's on to me here. So make sure that if you want to watch the podcast for the Rail, make sure that you subscribe to their channel and like it. It helps them out, continuing putting the content out, and likewise for us as well. If you go onto the SGTV platform, there's lots of great content on there. Just drop us a message, or if you watch a video and you want to get involved, then please do let us know. And you've got some good ideas, that'd be Fantastic. From a business perspective, there is government funding available for contractors taking on apprentices. Is this commonly known, as it could help apprentices find somebody willing to take them on? I think it was about maybe 4 years ago. I did a bit of research and worked out that over the course of an apprenticeship, when you've been taken on by an employer, there is the first couple of years are about 20% of the time it takes to develop you as an apprentice. So the person who is working or employing you, it takes them out of their day 20% to look after you and make sure that you're doing things right and teach you the way of being an electrician. So what you need to do when you're going out there and you're trying to find an employer, you need to sell yourself and you say, look, I know this, and this, and I'm willing to learn this. You don't need to babysit me through this, and this. So the more and more you can take to them to say, look, I'm good at this and I look at this. And again, that comes from repetition and that comes from spending the time, understanding the way that an electrician works. Great, YouTube, again, fantastic platform. It can help you actually get work for yourself when you understand what it is that employers are looking for as well. You can also go on the Voltman platform as well. They've got some great things on there. Just see that Nate's put something in here, so I appreciate that, Nathan. Can you give a brief overview of the AM2, please? I've picked that one up, so I'm just trying to see the name here. We've just been picked that up and we've spoken about it. A brief overview is that you would go to an AM2 test centre. You would carry out various tasks throughout a couple of days. I think it's 3 days now. Opposed to 5 that some used to have to endure. So you would go in, you would carry out some installation work, some testing, some fault finding, safe isolation, and some health and safety work as well. So, God, everybody putting all these links on here. This is a podcast about getting into rail. Thank you to whoever's put that up. What tips could you give to completing the MVQ timely? As I said, start right away. You don't have to wait until you're actually right. The college has said, right, it's now time to do your MVQ. Start straight away. Have a chat with your lecturer and say, look, I'm interested in starting. I don't want to be taking forever doing this. What is it, the standard that I'm looking for? And what do I need to start taking evidence from? As soon as you do that, that's the most timely way you can do it. If you want to take your time over the course of the MVQ, then again, that's perfectly fine as well, to make sure that you do it right, and then fantastic. But I think the best method is to start right away. Finish this podcast, this webinar, should I say? I've been talking about podcasts now. Finish this webinar, get out there, have a little chat with your lecturer. If you're in college today, I see there is quite a few lecturers that are signed in here. Have a chat with them, see what it is that they suggest. Personally, I think the quicker you do it, the easier it is. And the other thing is as well, if you are doing any jobs and you are out there on site, make note of the different variations that you're doing as well. Write up, even if it's not going to be the one that you're going to use for your MVQ, write a job up. It gives you that mindset of how that you want things structured. And then on the next one, you'll say, right, don't forget to do that. Actually, make sure that we need to include this, because when I did the write-up of the last one, I missed X, Y, and Z. So it may give you a bit more structure as well. Let's have a look. Thanks, Jake. Great answers today. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's see. Here's the Apprentice one-to-one, Mark Allison. So yeah, have a chat with Mark if you are struggling to find a job out there. I know he's doing some fantastic work as well. The other thing to mention as well is you may notice that I'm on my own today. So for the people that regularly check in with us, you'll notice that I'm on my own. I am working solo at the moment, but I am trying to look for someone else to come and join me at some point. But the point I'm making is that if there is any lecturers out there at the moment that are interested in getting us to come down or myself to come down and do some talks in front of live audiences, and you've got a couple of classrooms, then again, drop some messages on some of the videos, and we can get back to you on that. Any of our social media platforms, you can message us on there if you want to get involved and you want me to come down and do some talks, whether it's about the Illusion products, so the new consumer units that we have, the ClickSmart Plus, we do a fantastic demo on ClickSmart Plus, whereby we can get you pairing the devices, setting up scenes and automations, which is a great tool, especially with the way that the industry is moving. Or we want to have a look at some of the Avaya lights that we do, some of the switched in, the 1 to 10, the DALI setups that we have. Or if you want to learn about ESP and you want to look at some cameras, or if you want to look at some fire alarm bits and pieces, then again, please do drop us a message on social media as well. Okay, last question then before we start to wrap things up. Do you have any recommendations for YouTube channels aimed at apprentice electricians? I'm just trying to see the name of that person that's asked that. I can't see it from here. I need to test my eyes. Yes, there's some great people out there that are doing fantastic things with apprentices. Gary at GSH Electrical, fantastic guy, really knows his stuff, really interested in helping electricians. Make sure you go and check him out as well. He does a phenomenal job when it comes to videos for apprentices, and all of his videos on GSH Electrical are aimed at apprentices. That's his bag. That's what he likes doing. And some of the videos that he's been producing recently do take a look at the AM2 as well. So have a look at that. And he's probably the main one that I would look at for that sort of level. We have lots of content aimed at helping apprentices on their journey across SGTV as well. I'm being told that I need to make sure that I mention SGTV one more time. So again, you can go across there and have a look at some of the videos that are on there as well. Is there any more questions before we start to wrap things up? I've been around about half an hour now going for that, and it feels like I've just waffled on. So is there any final questions before we start to wrap things up? Again, I appreciate your time. I really do. It does mean a lot to me to see so many people and coming in and joining us repeatedly as well, and seeing some new faces that are in here as well. No more questions? Okie dokie. Alex, back to you. Thank you very much for your time today, everybody.
Thanks very much, Jake. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your engagement. Thanks for the questions. And see you tomorrow. We'll have another session tomorrow at 1 p.m. with Electrical Apprentice. So thank you very much. Take care. See you tomorrow. Thanks, Jake.
Thank you, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks. Bye-bye.